right, so now that we all understand what offside is, yeah, so I'm done. Okay. U.S. Soccer's, their definitions are very similar to what FIFA has. Obviously, everything we do comes from FIFA. These are just the 4 criteria to consider when deciding if there's an offside offense or not. FIFA says, number 1, first and foremost, is the attacker nearer to the opponent's goal line than the second to last defender or the ball. Okay, so if they're ahead of the second to last defender or the ball, number 1, they're in an offside position. All right. Number 2, interfering with play means playing or touching the ball that was passed or touched by a teammate. All right. So even if it deflects off a teammate, they can still be offside. Interfering with an opponent means preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision or challenging an opponent for the ball. And are they gaining an advantage from being in that position? Generally, that's if they're in an offside position when the shot is taken, rebounds from the goalkeeper that made a save, or off the goalpost or crossbar back to them. They're gaining an advantage from being in that position. So, just to break them down each a little bit more, it's not an offense to simply be in an offside position. Okay, so you can be in an offside position. That does not mean that your flag goes up instantly and you're offside. Okay, because there's criteria that must be met. For an offside to be considered, the player must be in an offside position at the point at which the ball was last passed or touched by a teammate. This doesn't mean deflecting off a defender, and we'll get into deflection, possession, and all that stuff here. For offside, the best thing is to see it, to see a video. So I've got videos here, and hopefully they all work for us. All right.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Law 11 states that a player is in an offside position when nearer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second to last opponent. The term nearer refers to when any part of the attacker's body, which can legally play the ball, is past the second to last defender. Let's take a look at a play where a cross comes in towards goal and determine if an attacking player scores from an offside position. A corner kick is played deep into the penalty area. An attacker plays the ball across the goal, and a teammate scores at the far post. We clearly see here that when the ball is played, the attacking player's head is nearer to the goal line than the second to last defender. Even though it is only the attacker's head which is nearer to the goal line, this counts as being in an offside position because the ball can legally be played by the head. The player then becomes involved in active play from the offside position by interfering with play when he makes contact with the ball. Based on this, the criteria for an offside offense have been met, so the player should be penalized and the goal disallowed. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to keep visiting ussoccer.com to view additional
See you again. All right, so we all saw that. And basically how we kind of break it down, if any part of your body that you can score a goal with, legally score a goal with, okay, is in an offside position, once you play the ball, then you're considered to be offside. So therefore that excludes your arms, right? Because you can't legally score with your arm or, basically armpit down. So your hands can be out in front of the second to last defender when the ball is played, because you can't legally score with your hands. So that's something to consider, and it gets. I know Kevin said it's black and white, right? Offside is clearly black and white. It's scientific. It's very gray. All right? There's all sorts of stuff to consider, but that's as far as being near to the opponent's goal line. That's what to consider. Interfering with play. Like I said, it's defined as touching the ball once it's last passed or touched by a teammate. It does not have to be a deliberate pass or touch. So if they're not in an offside position, the ball's played, and then they move to an offside position and it slightly touches or deflects off another teammate, they're still considered to be offside because it kind of resets once that teammate touches it. And it does not include touching an opponent. Okay, so if you're in an offside position, or if you're in an onside position, the ball's played, you move to an offside position, but it deflects off of the defender, you're not offside because that deflection doesn't reset it because it's the opponent. All right, it has to be off of a teammate. Player in an offside position that receives a ball directly from an opponent is not considered to be offside. The touch from an opponent must be deliberate. And kind of what we've learned in this last year is, did the opponent have an opportunity to play the ball? And kind of how U.S. Soccer is saying it now and FIFA is saying it now, did the player move to the ball? A lot of times we think, that ball's coming in and they jump up and they head it and it kind of goes back, to a player who was in an offside position. In the past, we always considered that deflection. All right? FIFA and U.S. Soccer are saying now that that is possession and that's a deliberate play because they went to the ball. Okay, so they went to play the ball. Is it our fault that they misheaded it or they had a poor touch? That's not our fault. That's not something we consider when we are considering offside. So that's considered a deliberate pass now. It's not a deflection. So at least everybody in here can be on the same page when that comes up in your game, probably next week even. So go ahead, Jay.
So with that same interpretation, then, again, the two players, it's the keeper and two players. There's a guy ahead of me with the ball. I shoot, and the keeper parries the ball away. It's a deliberate action on his part to keep the ball from going into the net. And it goes to Scott, who's my teammate, who was in an offside position. Again, historically, that would have been.
And that all depends.
We're in trouble, but which are you saying?
Well, because that one's going to be.
You deliberately.
Yep.
You deliberately and obviously intentionally put your hands up to block the ball. All it does is bounce off your hands.
Right.
Because that was a deliberate.
That's going to be that gray area where you need to judge, did the keeper make a save? How hard was the shot? Were they diving? Did they have an opportunity to possess the ball? Whereas if it's coming and they have plenty of time and they kind of want to bat it down so they can waste some time or whatever and it goes to a player, I would consider that now possession because they had an opportunity to clearly play it. The speed of the shot wasn't necessarily there. If they didn't have to move, they didn't have to, dive, if they were able to maintain their balance. And that's going to be a gray area. They talk about now where if the attacker is in an offside position, okay, and they're behind the defender, they're not obstructing their view, they haven't touched the ball, they haven't challenged the opponent yet. Once that defender receives the ball, has an opportunity to receive it without being challenged, as soon as they touch that ball, this player is no longer in an offside position because this defender had an opportunity to play it. So if they touch it and it's a poor touch and it deflects back this way to an attacker that's there, it's no longer deflection because they had an opportunity to play the ball. And we'll see some videos here that'll show you.
Is this a position paper they've issued, or is this just an interpretation that somebody's relaying?
This is from Brian Hall with Pro.
I understand that, but are we talking about pro level games or are we talking about youth games? Because is there a position paper, or are we passing on somebody's opinion?
I'm not opinion. This is coming from U.S. Soccer, coming from FIFA, coming from Brian Hall and Pro. It will change depending on the level of competition that you have.
I'm just saying I don't think we need to go out more talking about teaching kids that are refereeing U14 games that this is, unless that's a position paper where they've changed the instructional guidelines, and you can probably answer that. We got to be careful because pro level games are not what we're doing in South Dakota.
Right.
I'm just saying.
We're just clarifying, what's deflection and what's
I understand.
deliberate
but
play.
There's a difference.
Adjust your decision making to the level of competition. Okay, if you're doing U12s, U14s, here in the middle of South Dakota, is their skill level going to be there necessarily to clearly possess the ball? And having that person within 2-3 yards may be considered challenging the opponent because they have those nerves and stuff. So obviously adjust to the level of
And the reason I'm
competition.
bringing this up is because what you're saying is totally opposite of what U.S. Soccer has said for the last 25 years. And so if that's going to be the way they're going to do it, they need to put that in. There's got to be a position paper or a clarification comes out in their amendments because they haven't said that I've seen. If somebody else has seen it, please.
They did take the wording of distract.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so I'm just,
Offsides.
What's that?
They did take the wording of distracting an
Yeah.
opponent out of offsides, and that's the,
Yeah.
I think that's the big piece that Jeremy's trying to get across.
It's now challenging the opponent
Is
then.
that we really need to see, that gaining an advantage as not, if the defender has a chance to play the ball, it's changing. And so if the defender has a chance to play the ball, you are no longer in that offside position. But what we got to decide here is as those levels grow, or depending on the level of reffing, what is considered the defender had a chance to play that ball. And so, we got to take the talent of the level we're officiating.
Right. And a lot of what we had learned is, as we were in the past, it took a little time for information to get to us, whereas now with all the social media and technology and everything, it's coming a lot faster. So we're just trying to relay this information directly from U.S. Soccer, where, Lauren and I have been blessed enough to have the opportunities to work with, the top assessors and directors in the country. And so they're telling us, take this directly to your state so that we can start here so that we're all on the same page rather than 4 or 5 years in that progression and then it's all old news now. So,
Yeah, but what you can take back to them is that they need to put this in writing. honestly,
'Kay.
they need. They need to. You can't, because what happens is you have somebody saying this, but what they have in writing and what they have in their courses is different. You know what I'm saying? And so they need to officially say this is the rule change. That's a drastic change. It really is. And
Yep.
so
and we'll see we'll look at some videos too that'll hopefully help with that.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. According to the laws of the game, a player in an offside position can only be penalized for offside by becoming involved in active play. One way to become involved in active play is by interfering with play, which means playing or touching the ball when passed or touched by a teammate. Let's take a look at a play where a cross comes into the penalty area and determine if the attacking player interferes with play. A free kick is played into the penalty area and the attacking team scores. At the time the ball is played, we can see 2 players from the attacking team in an offside position. Becoming involved in active play from an offside position is an offense. This is precisely what happens here when the attacker interferes with play by making contact with the ball and heading it towards goal. Based on this, the player should be penalized for offside and the goal should be disallowed. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to keep visiting ussoccer.com to view additional referee education resources aimed at providing officials of.
So did the AR get it right, Jeremy?
Yes. Yep, the flag went up on that. And as you can see, when the player actually headed the ball, he was not. It didn't appear to be in an offside position, but at the point that the kick was taken, him and his teammate were both in an offside position. Not by much, very minimal, but inch or mile, it doesn't matter, right? Interfering with an opponent. Preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision. Generally, that's the goalkeeper. Or challenging an opponent for the ball. I know we had situation this summer, Lauren had the whistle on it, and Kevin was the AR, and it was one of those unique ones where the keeper had gotten beat, looked like the ball was going in the net. Player that was in an offside position didn't go to the ball, didn't play the ball, didn't obstruct the keeper, but actually impeded or made contact with an opponent that was on their way to possibly clear that ball off the line. It took some time to get it figured out, sorted out correctly, but the correct decision we feel was made because they obstructed that opponent's opportunity to go to the ball and possibly keep that ball out of the net. So, sorry, I got to keep going back and forth here. They're not
So
pulling
something
up.
like that you just talked about, was that considered offsides or what's the word I'm looking for?
Impeding, but it's offside because you're,
Yeah.
for this purpose, it's impeding, or not impeding, it's offside because you're violating the law, you're not letting them get to the ball.
Yep. Yep. So that's one of those where you're obstructing the
Probably
opponent.
same
Yeah.
thing. You could call it impeding, but you don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we were confused because the player actually the attacker didn't play the ball, didn't score the goal or anything like that. So, and Kevin had a slow flag on it. It's one of those that was unique, so he kind of had to process it for, 4 seconds, which feels like 10 minutes. But Lauren and him talked about it, discussed it, kind of walked through the situation quick and got the decision correct.
Because it could be a lot lesser degree of impeding than you would call them for impeding for.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Law 11 defines interfering with an opponent as preventing the opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision or movements, or making a gesture or movement which, in the opinion of the referee, deceives or distracts. Let's take a look at a play where an attacker in an offside position attempts to play the ball and determine if he interferes with an opponent. A cross comes in and an attacking player in an offside position attempts to play the ball but does not make contact. The ball continues rolling through the penalty area where another attacker scores. At the moment the ball is played, we clearly see that the first attacker is in an offside position. The player attempts to play the ball but does not make contact. However, the attacker is still involved in active play because his actions distract or deceive the goalkeeper. Based on this, the attacker has interfered with an opponent, so he should be penalized for offside and the goal disallowed. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to keep visiting ussoccer.com to view additional referee education.
Shane mentioned those of us that went to regionals. You know how we have FIFA referees and assistant referees there? The assistant referee that made that call was Kermit Quisenberry, who was our presenter and lead instructor at regionals this year. So if you're wondering what kind of people you see at regionals, he's been working in the MLS for many years. And actually, this is his first year off of the FIFA panel. I think he was on 11 or 14 years, something like that. And it was simply because of his age. So he hit the point where he had to step down. So, and then gaining an advantage from being in the position, playing a ball that rebounds or is deflected to him off the goalpost, crossbar, or an opponent, and rebounds, is deflected, or is played to him from a deliberate save by an opponent. So.
Doesn't that go back to Jay's question?
Yeah.
But it says right in there, deliberate save.
Save, as opposed to
Yeah, but it wouldn't. If
parry.
If he caught it, he wouldn't get a chance to play it. I mean,
Right.
What they're saying is deliberate save, which means if he deliberately parries it down, wasn't that your question, Jay?
Yeah.
I mean, so
I mean, it's, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I mean, the earlier discussion, it kind of, to me, comes up sounding like, Jeremy, if you're the keeper, the only way the ball can touch you and go to Scott from my shot is if you're looking the other way and it just whaps off the back of your head. Because otherwise, you're facing me. Anything you do is deliberate. Therefore, you had a chance to do something. The fact that you didn't stop the ball and hold possession means that wherever it goes to my teammate, who is clearly offside, he's got a free pass.
Well, and you have to consider parrying versus saving. Okay, I mean there is a difference.
Parry's deliberate though. It's all deliberate. I'm doing it
Yes.
intentionally
Yes.
for the purpose of keeping the ball out of the net.
Yep.
So
If you
I understand you're
Yeah.
struggling with this too, but I just
parrying is considered possession. Have you ever called parrying? Would you ever call parrying?
no. I mean,
According to the laws, it's not allowed.
No, it was a hard shot.
Right.
The response, it's like a handball
Mm-hmm.
from close distance. That's where I'm sort of seeing
Well,
maybe
you
an
can
analogy
parry the ball.
develop.
That's not illegal. It's illegal to pick it up again.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
So I mean, so there's nothing saying you can't parry the ball.
Right, but it's considered possession.
Right, it is.
So
But-
with the as far as
what I'm saying is
offside.
that slide, and I realize that's not your slide, so I'm not arguing with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying according to that slide, it says deliberately makes a save. Well,
Right.
Are you saying that parrying the ball down isn't? I mean, I'm saying that's pretty gray. It's not black and white.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's very
Science, but not
Yeah.
science. Lauren, what did you have anything?
I
Or?
was just gonna say, I think mostly what they're saying on the other slide is goalkeepers involved, but not as much. The deflection on that slide is more like a defender heading it and they mishead it, they
Yeah.
miskick it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily. I know you guys are focusing on the keeper and how it says deliberate save versus that, and Jeremy is trying to say the only way it can be is if they could have caught it, but they chose
Right.
not to. That's the only thing which is different than deliberate save and they hit it, is a deliberate save and they didn't have opportunity. So when he said the speed of ball they would never, like, that's a deliberate save, so they could be offside versus, I'm not gonna catch it. Like, that's the big difference. Because the deflection the other side was talking about was more like like a defender jumps to head it,
Yep.
and they mishead it. Like, any of our club players in Sioux Falls, in Aberdeen, in Rapid City, they try to head it. I would say if you try to head the ball and you mishead it, Sarah, like backwards, you tried to play it, so that is like that thing wouldn't be offside if you play defense, right? So if you mishead it and it goes backwards to a player behind you.
But there's a difference, and I'm not arguing with what they're telling you. What I'm saying, there's a difference between going up and heading the ball and misheading it backwards, and going up and head the ball and it skims off the top of your head, which would be deflection. There's a difference.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, well, I'm saying, and I'm confused, are you trying to sell, if I go up and I head the ball and it hits the top of my head and keeps on going, that is, yes, that player's off, or no, that player's not? Because what I'm trying to grasp is, what I'm taking is you're saying it shouldn't be off anymore.
Correct.
And I need something, there's a big difference between misplaying the ball and deflecting the ball. And that's where in offside for the last 20 years has been, you have to determine did they play the ball or did it deflect?
And it's still the same.
Well,
It's still the same. It's just how we interpret it now. They've changed, like the wording. They've changed to, and like I said, I've got some videos here that clearly show what we're talking about here. Oh, yeah.
Well, I forget what the exact verbiage was of the slide. But we seem to be focusing on deliberate, but doesn't it say opportunity to possess the ball? And I think, isn't that what?
Opportunity to play the ball or possess, yeah.
Possess the ball. And I think that the goalkeeper has an opportunity to play the ball, but not possess the ball on a really hard shot. So I think that's why I can maybe wrap my head around what you're trying to say. Because with the velocity of a hard shot, they're not going to be able. I mean, I don't.
Not going to be able to possess it, but they'll be able to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To save and gather it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where maybe the distinction is.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Law 11 states that it is not an offense in itself to be in an offside position. An attacker is penalized only when in an offside position and involved in active play. This means the referee must determine that a player is participating in one of the following: interfering with play, interfering with an opponent, or gaining an advantage by being in that position. Let's take a look at a play where a shot comes in on goal near a player who is clearly in an offside position and determine if the player is involved in active play. An attacking player makes space for himself and takes a shot on goal. The ball passes by a teammate in an offside position, and the ball rebounds off the goalpost and stays in play. When the shot is taken, we can clearly see that the attacking player is in an offside position. The attacker does not make any contact with the ball and does not interfere with the goalkeeper, who is able to maintain a clear view of the entire play. Nor does the attacker gain any advantage from the offside position after the ball rebounds from the goalpost. We see here that the attacker meets none of the criteria for being involved in active play. Based on this, the referee should not penalize the attacking player for being in an offside position and should allow play to continue. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to keep visiting ussoccer.com to view additional.
All right. So on that one, the assistant referee did not obviously raise their flag. Player did not gain any sort of advantage. Ball went back out into the active play and was knocked around a little bit. So AR positioning and situational awareness. The assistant referee should be positioned even with the second to last defender. This is to maintain that constant line of vision. Does it have to be 100% of the time? No, because that's not possible, but it should be as close to as possible. You'll have some recovery time, and that the important thing is to be in that position prior to possibly having to make an offside decision. The AR should sidestep for short distances. In the past, they used to really stress sidestep, sidestep, sidestep. They've just learned that that's so hard on the body, and it's so hard to keep up with the higher levels you go. Even into some of the high school and higher club games, those kids are fast, and we're not getting younger. So sidestep for short distances or when an offside decision may need to be made. And kind of the rule of thumb is the AR should move at the pace of the defenders. So if the defenders are walking upfield, you can stay in line with them by walking with them. If they're jogging, jog with the defenders. If they're sprinting upfield, sprint with the defenders. So use them as kind of a gauge for how you're moving up and down the field. Be aware of where the players are when a shot is taken. Okay, like we talked about, or like we saw in that last video, the player wasn't in an offside position. So should that shot have rebounded back to him, he would have been offside. We need to know where they are when that shot is taken. Pay attention to the numbers of the players that are the primary defenders. And that's kind of that situational awareness. We had a game just the other day, and there was one defender that was back about 3 yards from the entire line. And there was an attacker that was just past all the other defenders who thought he was going to be offside. And it was easy for me to sell it for the referee by just saying, because the players are all yelling at me, what? Who kept him on? Who kept him on? Right? And if I can say number two, the near defender right here, number 2, instantly their focus goes from me to that player. Right? Now it's off my back. I am no longer the bad guy because they had a defender that was holding him on. So if you can pay attention to who the numbers are or the number of the player that kept the player onside, then it takes a lot of pressure off of you. And that conversation ends real quick. When an offside decision is not likely to be made, the AR should expand their area of responsibility to see what is happening off the ball, behind the referee's back, like Lance had talked about as far as fourth official goes, or anything that's out of the sight of the referee. So you're not 100% focusing on that line, because if ball is upfield, you don't have to worry about it. Expand that vision to see what else is going on. Okay. Wait and see technique. We always talk about wait and see, having a slow flag. The assistant referee should wait to signal for an offside decision to see if all the criteria is met. Okay. You don't have to raise your flag instantly. Okay. You have a few seconds. All right. Make sure the player that was in offside position is the player that's actually playing the ball. There's all sorts of stuff to consider. Just take your time. Then you can put your flag up, and then you can make that decision. Yeah.
While you're waiting, play's probably still going to be moving towards the goal.
Yes.
Do you follow play and then move back if you decide to call it, or do you stay put and then if you decide that it's not offside, run back up?
You should still go with play, because should you just decide or determine that it's not an offside offense, now you're way out of position, right? So continue moving with play, and then raise your flag, and you can go there, you can come up field. I mean, that's kind of debatable amongst referees, because the decision really was made once that player played the ball, or you can give the advantage and come back up where they were when, but continue to go with play until you make your decision so that you're not completely out of position should an offense not occur. And if the assistant referee is not 100% sure that it's an offside offense, that there's an offside offense, should keep your flag down, okay, and allow play to continue. It promotes active play, and you can't make a decision if you think that they may have been offside. If you're not 100% sure, keep the flag down and go with play. There's a 3-step decision-making process, kind of what I found. Judgment, information, and interpretation. And there's, I guess, kind of a little chart here that you can take a look at. Look at all the stuff to determine if they're in an offside position, did they play the ball, that kind of stuff. If they did, then you go to the next criteria. If not, then there's no offense. So. All right. Now we'll look at some of the videos so we can kind of see what we've been talking about here. Hopefully. All right. And now these clips, they all come from Pro, which works together with U.S. Soccer for the MLS and some other leagues around the country. But we'll just go through the videos. If I remember correctly, I think these were all decisions where the referee did signal for offside and should not have. Okay, so then if you see one you want to talk about, we can talk about it quickly. So. All right, so you guys see how the player had an opportunity to play the ball? He was not challenged by the opponent. He had a clear opportunity to play the ball. Because he played it poorly and had a bad touch.
But that flag was up on the first pass through. The attacker was offside. What they're saying is that he wasn't really involved in the active play yet because the flag was up on the way.
No, it goes up right here.
I mean, he flagged the first pass, didn't he?
No, because he's still going here. And now the flag goes up once that player is involved. So.
Well, then why would
Right. Yep. Yep. And here's another one. They'll show it again here. See how that defender had that opportunity to play the ball, and he popped it right up to himself, and that attacker came around and played it. We'll go back to that last one. Not offside. See, this white player is back here, right? He's in an offside position. He does not challenge the opponent. The defender has a clear opportunity to play the ball, heads it out, and flagged it. And they don't want that flag because he wasn't challenged by that opponent. So
that's a slow flag issue.
What's that?
What they're saying is that the defender played the ball and he wasn't.
Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't involved. He didn't gain an advantage or anything like that. Yeah.
But watch your clips. But they still haven't shown them where there's a deflection.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference here.
Yep. And this is a wait and see one where the flag went up. The referee should have waited to see which player played the ball, right? The guy that made the initial touch was the guy that ended up playing it. And the flag went up. The referee made the right decision and applied advantage. Keeper maintained possession and allowed for a counterattack to come upfield. But you'll see number 7 there.
Sturdiest of defences. 4 goals and 2 assists. The Timbers are in dire need.
See how that's one of those that I think in the past we might have flagged just because he was in the vicinity, and it's not necessary now because that defender made a poor touch, and that's not our responsibility.
4 goals and 2 assists. The Timbers are in dire need.
Yeah.
To the counterattack on their own set pieces. You saw it there. Easy catch for Blake. How quickly he looked.
And now this one, you'll see the assistant referee explain to the Houston coach that was all my fault. That was on me, my mistake. Lance, is that Ian? Do you know which brother that is? Was that Ian? Ian, so he makes a mistake like this. If I remember correct, I think Ian was on the MLS All-Star game this year. So he's obviously had a very good year, but even a referee at that level can...
Right, exactly.
He called the first guy offside, right?
Yeah. Yep. And as you saw him explain to the coach, that was my mistake. That was all me. That's my fault. Because he knew that he shouldn't have raised his flag. I'm sure it was one of those, as soon as he raised his flag, he tucked his tail between his legs. So.
The defender hit that, right?
Yeah. Here's one of the headers that we were talking about. I think it was Paul Scott.
So that's the new thing. That's not offside.
Right.
Because he had a chance to play the ball, didn't play it properly,
And
unfortunate for you, but
right, and that's the announcement that we saw this week that came out from Pro is Paul Rogier, who's technical director of referees or whatever for Pro, said it's not offside because that player moved to the ball to play it, and
but here's, and this is, I'm starting to kind of understand what you're saying now too. But here's the difference: you have to decide now. Are you saying if that player jumps as high as they can jump, and it touches the top of their head, even though you may feel it was too high? I mean, so you're saying the player's got to decide, hey, can I play this ball, or do I got to stop? Is the
kind of pretty much, yeah.
I'm saying that's a big.
It is,
decision.
and
exactly. That's,
yeah,
you know.
And it's like we've said it a couple times, but a U12, a U14 game, even some of the higher level games here, if they jump, do they always judge it properly? No. Okay, so if they jump and it skims, you can adjust it, but coming from U.S. Soccer, technically, by the book, it's offside.
Well, not by, unless they change the book, not by the book. That's an interpretation.
By interpretation, it's offside.
Right. But what they say, they'll also tell you, and they're right, that at this level, they don't do anything by mistake.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what came from Pro. It says, was a header by this player deliberate or deflection? As the head goes towards the ball, it has to be regarded as a deliberate play. Okay. If he remains stationary and the ball hits him and goes to your knee, then it is a deflection. So if he's standing, does the ball play him or does he play the ball? That's the consideration we need to have for offside.
But as a player, like what player doesn't jump even if they can't?
Exactly. Right.
That's where.
Right.
All I'm saying is, are
in
you,
an offside position at that point when you're trying to
So the
play?
player
Right.
should just say, well, I'm just going to let the ball go past
But
me.
then if that player's not in an offside position, what's everybody going to yell at you? You need to go for that. So it's
But my question is, though, are you saying that's a pro interpretation for this level game, which is correct? But there's a difference between a pro interpretation and what we're changing in the rule book for U.S. soccer for the 99% of the games we're doing in South Dakota. I mean, that's my question. Is that a rule change or is that an interpretation from pro? There's a big difference.
There was two considerations what they said in this publication, this email.
the thing is, it's easy for them to show MLS clips because we don't have clips from youth games, right? So it's easy for them to get clips from this level to show the interpretation, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So-
The question still stands, though. Are they interpreting that as a rule change or a pro interpretation for this level of game? And I'm not saying you have the answer to that.
Right.
I'm just saying we got to be careful when we walk out of here and say, hey, in your U12 game next spring, are you calling this? Because if that's not the rule, then we shouldn't say it is.
But I think what you're trying to get into is the intent of the player, which you
Right.
can't decide.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm talking the intent of the rule. What's the intent of U.S. soccer? Is this a pro interpretation for that level of game, or is this a rule change? That's
But I
my
mean,
question.
no matter what, you've made a move to play the ball, whether it skims over your head or whether you put contact on it and it goes 4 feet higher. You've made a deliberate move to hit the ball. So now you've deliberately played it. I mean, that can no longer be considered a deflection. Even if it just skims your head, you've deliberately moved to it. So now you're just deciding, did he intend to hit it? You know, so I don't think that's ever been a deflection.
Oh, it certainly has.
But if it skims off your head, you've deliberately done it.
Yeah, but
So
that
it's
hasn't
not
been
a
called as
deflection.
offside. That hasn't been the rule interpretation. We haven't instructed referees to do that ever. That's all I'm saying. So that would be a new rule change.
I wouldn't say rule, a new interpretation of how to apply the offside
Okay, whatever
law.
interpretation,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking what level are we interpreting that? 'Cause that's not how it was meant.
It gets, I mean, I'm thinking about this, how to explain this to the youth referees, again, as Tom said, the 99%. And I guess where I would go with it is, much as I would do with a handball right now. If, in your opinion, contact between the ball and the hand was unavoidable, okay, then if you can go ahead and don't make the call. You know, and that includes the part about, you know, if I'm 5 feet away from somebody and the ball's kicked, my hands are going to go to my face. Okay, there was no intent there. I mean, I can't read your mind. I have no idea what intent is, but that's a reflex reaction. If I take that same shot from 20 yards away, and the player stands there and puts his hands up, I'm sorry, you're screwed. And we would do the same thing here. If, in the opinion of the referee,
You thought the player was offside?
that contact was unavoidable, then fine. Then there's an offside situation going on there. But now you're getting down to this very fine line of pretty much anytime the player makes a move to the ball, for any reason, if that ball's traveled more than about 10 yards or 10 feet, it's pretty much got to be considered an intent.
Right.
And therefore, as you say, now that attacker who was otherwise in an offside position has got a free pass.
Sure.
That would be the.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's different than it's been.
Right.
What is their intent? Are they intending this at all levels or at the highest level?
And
that may be a question we can't answer right now.
Right. It would just be clear for you if something clearly came from U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
Showing.
I understand what you're saying.
Because we've
I'm
always
saying
debated deliberate versus deflection.
I'm
Yep.
not arguing what you're saying at all. I'm
Yeah.
saying is what is their intent with this? Because
Mhm.
U.S. Soccer hasn't said anything. They haven't sent out a memorandum. They haven't sent out a
Right.
maybe at the pro
Official.
level.
Right.
But I'm saying to say, hey, here, this is it. That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
Is they need to do that. That's their intent. Yeah.
The diagrams in the instructional material.
Right.
Shows just this scenario, shot taken,
Yeah.
bang, it bounces off a player.
Right.
Where it's traveled
You can
more
go
than
right
enough
now.
distance to have been a deliberate.
Yeah, you can go right now,
situation.
download the course from U.S. Soccer, their website, and it's going to show something contradicting to what you're saying.
Yeah, and it says that's okay,
Yeah.
that's not a problem.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if all else fails, you have the defenders to help you make decisions. Yeah. So, I mean, you have attackers and defenders calling offside for you here. So,
It's all good.
so if you have any doubt, scan the field, and one of them will help you. So,
Or ask the parents, they'll know.
yeah. Well, they'll verbalize it either way. So, well, good. I'm glad we had a lot of interaction. I mean, it's good hearing questions from, it's easier for us to grasp this stuff because we're working, with these people, getting assessed by them and stuff. But, coming back and what have we been seeing and how have we been doing stuff, in the past, and how do they want it interpreted now? So, and we see these people enough that it's a good question for us to ask them that, hey, if you want us to pass this stuff along like you keep pushing on us to, you need to send out, even if it's a short memorandum or something saying.
Course and you teach it, you're going to tell something that's totally different from this. Is all I'm saying. So
I
I have no idea. That's my point. Is they need to, if that's the way they want to interpret it at the U10 level, then they need to make that clear.
Yep.
Jeremy,
yeah.
Your definition that you had up, those definitions came right out of the
straight out of FIFA. Yep.
I mean, so when it says deliberately plays the ball, and you have to just determine what deliberate means at your play. So that's, I mean, it does say deliberate.
Yeah, deliberately plays the ball.
Deflection. So if it's deliberately plays the ball, and they're just trying to make it clear what
totally, it's interpretation. Yeah. But the interpretation they're saying now is different than they've had for 20 years. That's all I'm saying.
And next year, someone will argue differently, I'm sure. So that's it. I'm done.